Family, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's 8 o'clock. It's Thursday. Y'all know what that means, right? It's time to talk. And here I am. I'm your favorite uncle, nephew, and cousin, Kenneth Campbell, bringing it to you as we always do. Hey, big shout out to my team. Big shout out to RST Automation. Again, if you haven't seen the technology, please reach out to them for a demo just so you can see if that technology can help you become more efficient and improve your productivity in your department. They have instrument processing stations, they have peel pack stations, they have storage stations that utilizes AI to help slimline everything. Dr. Jason OG's good friend of the show, Coleman, Pure Processing, IMP, and you can't forget, Calzura. Just everybody that's been here to make this journey possible. And y'all know why we always here, right? Time to talk. Still available on all platforms. If you don't have your copy, definitely reach out and grab it. And, as always, when you see me, I will make sure that I sign it in person. This week, after an amazing show last week with the chapters and how that we, get people involved in those chapters and what does a chapter do for you, I thought about some parts of that leadership because it leaned heavy on leadership, getting their staff involved and making sure that they knew what was available to them. So as I thought about some of the stuff that we were talking about, I wanted to dive into a topic that I know a lot of us struggle with in the leadership role. There are leaders out there who haven't had to deal with it yet or have the situations there and don't know how to approach it. What I'm talking about is those critical and crucial conversations. Critical conversations are important because they allow for that open and for open communication, which is essential for trust and resolving conflicts, right? But how do we get there? How do we engage with that person that you have to have that conversation with? What are some ways that you prepare for that? And how do we come to a resolution? Well, I wanted to bring somebody who I thought that would bring a different dynamic to the things that we do here at Time to Talk. I've been, it's funny because I've been reaching out to him, but he's been busy educating our industry. He is, just a renowned, base of knowledge just based on the people that I've talked with. And like I said, since I've connected with him, I've seen his trajectory, and it's amazing to see. So I'm gonna jump right in here and just bring him in. I want to bring in my good friend, Mr. Nestor Hernandez.
Kenneth Campbell, how are
Hey,
you?
how are you, sir? How are you?
What they didn't tell me.
Hey, good segue. Like, hey, this is
What
the
they
part they didn't tell you. This is the part they didn't tell
what
you.
they didn't tell me that 43 years ago when I started this industry that I was going to be sharing this platform with you, and what an honor. What an honor. I know
No,
we've been going back and forward, and I kept saying, yes, we'll do it. And then, no, I can't do it. But you
hey,
never gave up on me. So thank you for not giving up on me and giving me this opportunity to talk.
sir,
Yes.
this honor is all mine to have a brilliant mind in the industry come through and share knowledge with everybody. The honor is definitely Time to Talk to have you here. On that note, just in case there's somebody out there who doesn't know who you are, can you introduce yourself to the family, sir?
My name is Nestor Hernandez, and I've been in sterile processing for 44 years. In September to be 44 years. And man, I've been playing all the bases. Started as a tech, worked my way up to different levels of technicians levels to educators, supervisors, managers, directors level. And Now I'm the director of education and quality for sterile processing for a company called Specialty Care.
Okay.
I've been with them. Just this week was my 2 year anniversary with Specialty Care, and I love what I do. I love what I do. I got to tell you that around 5 6 years ago, probably a little bit longer, I was working in a hospital in New Jersey, and I was on my way home, and I got stuck in traffic. And I stopped the car, and I always carry a camera, and I opened the sunroof, and I'm taking pictures of the sunsets, and I sat there, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna write a job description when I finally when I finally grow up and get a hold of what I really want to do. This is what I want to do, and I wrote a
Right.
job description, and then I put it in a box. And 3 years ago, I moved to Florida, and I'm unpacking, and there's the job description, and I'm like, what should I do with it? Well, make a long story short, I'm living that job description today.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So talk
So,
about, difficult conversation, crucial conversation, just having conversations. Sometimes the conversation that you must have is with yourself, is with you. Starts with you. It really does starts with you.
and I like that you said that because you said that it's you've come up through all of those ranks. So you've worked every gambit of the industry, and
Mhm.
you said educator, manager, director, all of the above. So
Mhm.
just in that alone, I know that there's been a time or two that you've had to have that conversation.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna say first, you said you've been doing this 44 years and you look 44. So I'm kind of confused about the time frame here. I know. I said we weren't gonna glaze over the fact that you said 44 years. We're just gonna let that go like that. But
I used to bring my mom used to pack my bottle with the milk and baby food and drop me off at the hospital. I'll pick you up at at 4:30.
hey, that's what it looked
Crawl
like.
my
So
way in there.
hey,
You know.
it's a blessing to have you
Thank
in
you,
the
thank
industry
you.
that long. So
Yeah.
knowledge of nonsense says welcome to time to talk. Very glad to see you. Hey, here we are. We are
Mhm.
here. Let's start off with what is and what does it mean when we say crucial conversation or critical conversation?
Okay, so this is not a coincidence. I'm telling you, this is not a coincidence. I believe in, with the star alignment, even though I'm not into none of that stuff. But, when the right time comes, the right time coming, this is the right time. Just this week, I wrote like a 5 slide presentation to all my clinicians and all my managers, and the title of that, and I have it right in front of me, was it's out of crucial conversation, and it was getting unstuck, getting
Okay.
unstuck, right?
Okay.
And how to spot the conversation that are keeping you from what you want to say or how you want to connect with people. And the number one problem is to get unstuck, right? We're
Right.
all stuck, or we're not achieving what we want in varieties of areas in our lives, ranging from awkward or falling relationship or dysfunctional teams, right?
Right.
Been
Right.
there, right? Work with dysfunctional team, trying to figure out best cost, best quality, or the safety within the department, and how do we communicate all of that, with our staff members, and what do we do? What do we do when we're stuck, and how do we typically respond? When we're in a conversation with someone, that it's a critical conversation or a difficult conversation, and how do we do that? And sometimes we face with these conversations, um, and sometimes by opposing opinions. Not
Right.
everyone understands, or we don't all talk the same language. We all have strong emotions, or high stakes, or you think that most of us would deal with it right on the spot. Oh, I got this.
Right.
Bring them to the office. We're going to talk right now. I got this. But after all, the stakes are high, and the question is, do we really approach it that way? Or do
Now,
we just let it go? Right?
I have to tell you, I really don't get into the stars and alignment and stuff like that. But it's funny because my very first note here says What are the strategies for initiating a
Uh-huh.
critical conversation?
Right.
So how do you get unstuck? How do you initiate that conversation?
How
So
do you, mm-hmm,
it is that perfect time. You are here for a reason. The
mm-hmm.
people need to hear this. And what is a strategy? How do you initiate that tough conversation? How do you get unstuck?
So the first thing you have to do is identify where are you stuck.
Okay.
Identify the situation, right? Quickly identify the places or the situation or the circumstances where you currently feel stuck or have a high, huge potential to become stuck, right?
Okay.
So that's the first thing you have to do. Identify where exactly am I stuck? Am I not being clear enough when addressing my team? Am I
Okay.
just going around in circles and circles and circles because I really don't want to deliver the bad news? So I talk about this, I talk about that, and I'm avoiding having the conversation that I should have. And sometimes, and I do that all the time, I just, say this and say that. And I'm finding myself in my head saying, Nestor, shut up and just get to the point, say what you got to say. So
Now,
we feel that we're stuck because sometimes we don't know how the people are going to receive the message that you're going to deliver.
now in saying that, and I know there are new managers and some even seasoned managers and leaders that say, I know what I'm supposed to say,
Mm-hmm.
but they back off of it for that reason. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it be the backlash, whether it be the fear of losing staff and
Right.
all these type of things. Do we or should we worry about how that comes across?
So say that word again. Back what?
The backlash from it, you know?
So that's the second step. That's the second step. The second
Okay.
step is for you to backtrack, right?
Okay.
Backtrack from poor results, previous poor results, to the crucial conversation that is keeping you stuck. For example, right? If it is true that we are often stuck with poor result because of a conversation that we are either not holding or not holding well, the
Okay.
next step should be obvious. We've identified where we're stuck, right? Skill
Right.
number one,
Okay, we got it.
identify where we're stuck. So, identifying the specific conversation we need to hold in order to get unstuck. And sometimes, so I used to put myself on timeout in my own office. All
Right.
right. So when I knew that I had to deliver, I used to practice. Come on, we're taught that as presenters, So I grew up in church as well, and I'm a preacher as well, and the best for me, the best platform is my office. My office, and I open the word or I open whatever I'm going to deliver, right, in a meeting, and I practice in front of a mirror, right? I practice to see my expressions, to make sure that what I'm delivering, my expressions are also delivering, right? Because people are going to read right through you to know if you're
Right, right,
saying
right.
the truth or not, right? So we need to identify exactly where we're stuck. So I put myself on timeout in my office. My staff knew when my door was closed, Nestor is on timeout.
Oh,
Nestor's
wow.
going through something. And sometime it was that I was going through something. Later on, I'm going to share a story, something of a conversation that went wrong and how I handle it. Okay. But I
Okay.
would put myself on timeout and I would say, okay, Nestor, you can't say this, right? That was my process of getting unstuck. Right? It's a so identify the specific conversation we need to hold in order to get stuck. To do so, we need to backtrack from the result we don't like to the conversation behind them. So I used to lock myself, think about what I was going to say. I would write it, I would practice it, and then I would open the door call the person in the office if it was a one-on-one, or just speak and said what I had to say and deliver my message. And sometimes I even got stuck in the process of getting unstuck, if that makes any sense. You get
So,
unstuck in the process of getting unstuck, but the message was delivered very clear, you know.
oh, okay. I want to give a shout out. I saw somebody from Florida. I saw Angie's in the building. So we have people
Angie, hi
here.
Angie.
So they're here for it. So Lamont's here. So we got people here that want to hear this part. So
Lamont. Oh my God, Lamont. Hi Lamont. I know Lamont.
so if I'm hearing you correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
First, we have to identify why this conversation isn't happening. Let's
Right.
get unstuck. We got to figure
Where
out why
are
we're
you
stuck.
stuck?
Where are we
Where are
stuck
you
at?
stuck? Mm-hmm.
Then we know we know the result. Now we have to backtrack from that result to find out why we got there.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So in your practice, you're practicing, you're making sure that you're delivering it correctly to make sure that we have that open. That was part of it, right? Having that
Mm-hmm.
open conversation, being able to draw the person, have that person give you
Mm-hmm.
real time feedback. So
Mm-hmm.
that's two steps. You got
That's two
to
steps. Mm-hmm.
realize where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
backtrack. Now, what's the third step?
So I wrote down two steps. I didn't want to
Okay,
write
it
down
wasn't the third. Okay,
more
okay,
than that, but I do have some instructions, right?
okay.
Going back to the backtracking, what is the right conversation, right? So what you need to do is you need to refer to your brainstorm lists, right? From identifying where you're stuck, right? And using that information, the backtrack information, to the specific conversation you're either, again, not holding or not holding well, because you could be holding it but not holding that conversation well, and then reach to the root of the problem,
Okay,
right?
wait, let me ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
So you say we're holding that conversation, but not holding that conversation well. Is
Correct.
that per you're watching the person to see how they're receiving it, or
Sometimes it's
you're
because
just
you're not listening.
okay? Okay, that's why I say I wanted to get right there.
Hmm.
Like, so
Yes.
you're saying we're holding conversations, maybe not holding them well. Are we going off of the person's reaction?
Correct.
Or okay, just want to
Hmm.
clarify that for
Yep.
people, like because a lot
Hmm.
of us, and I say us as leaders, we'll
Hmm.
say, "Oh no, I delivered the message correctly,"
Right.
but
Hmm.
are we
But
truly
did we?
delivering that message correctly?
Exactly. Did we? So the other part is you must ask yourself. Here it is. I'm telling you, man, the stars are aligning. You're not reading my notes, but
All
it's
right.
like you were reading them. So you have to ask yourself, what is the right conversation?
Okay.
Am I listening? Did I listen to the question? What is the right conversation? So the number one thing you must do, or I want to say the number three, address the issue with the staff member when it occurred.
In real
Don't wait
time.
3 weeks later. Don't wait 4 days later.
Okay.
Don't put yourself on timeout for too long to figure out what you're going to say, because now when it's time for you to address that conversation with the employee, it may be too late. Oh, I forgot about it. Oh, I don't remember that.
So
And
that's
you may
important.
even, right?
So that's important. That real time conversation. I
Real
think a lot
time.
of us, do that though. I think a lot of us say, "Hey, I need time to process," and then, as you say, by the time you come back to it, that was lost its steam. Oh, I don't
Hmm.
remember it happening that way.
Right.
Or no,
Hmm.
that's not what happened. And you're
Hmm.
like, wait a minute, I was there. Like, I
Right.
know exactly
Exactly.
what happened. So
Exactly.
yeah,
So,
losing steam. You got to make sure
right.
that we keep the traction when it's
Hmm.
happening. Okay.
So when we say it's time to talk, it's time to talk now. Right? You like that, right?
I
It's
like the way you
time.
did that. I like the way you did that.
That's a commercial, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey,
It's
we just
time
gave
to
you the first
talk,
commercial. No, I got it.
but it's time to talk now,
Okay.
not tomorrow. And even in relationships. So this is not only in the workplace. I've learned also in the relationship. Oh, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want her I want her to blow some steams, or I want him to blow some steam. I want him to be in a better space before I have that conversation with him. I'm just gonna walk away. I'm just gonna get in my car and drive away. You know, the time to talk is now.
Now,
It's now.
for the person that says, "Hey, tension," as they say, tensions were high,
Mm-hmm.
so that wasn't the right time.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to that? Because when people are elevated, does the message still come across the same? Because if
So,
I'm upset and you're trying to talk to me, and I'm not trying to hear what you're saying because I'm upset,
mm-hmm.
so did you deliver the message wrong, or was that not the right time?
But it's when you talk. It's when you
Okay,
respond.
okay,
So you have to be a good listener first. And when
okay,
I say listening, it's not just have your ears in tune to hear the sound that's coming out of their mouth, but your eyes connecting with their eyes, right? So you can show that you are listening. Because sometimes, we're holding it, but we're not holding it, right?
right.
Because we seem like we're listening, but our eyes are like on our phones or we're focusing in something else. And the person that's addressing those issues, they could see that. Like, and they'll get to a point where they'll say, "You're not even listening to me, right? You're
I
not
think a
even
lot of
listening to me."
I said I think a lot of us have heard that come back from
Right.
us when you're having a conversation.
Right.
Yeah,
Why? Because your facial expression, right? You don't have the eye contact. So you want to hear them out, listen to them, and when they're done, that's the best communication is not when both people are talking at the same time. The best communication, man, is when one person is talking and the other one is listening. And then is your turn to respond. And if the person does not want to hear a respond at that time, it's okay. It really is okay for you to say, "Can we address this tomorrow? Would you like for us to continue tomorrow?" Maybe they just want to just tell you how they feel. They're not interested in hearing anything else that you have to say. They just need for you to hear how they feel about you changing the process in decon, you changing the hours of work, you changing the break times and all that stuff. You coming from an issue HSPA, right? Not Isham, but HSPA conference, and now you want to change everything. We got to do it this way because Nestor say to do it like this. Kenny
so
say to do it like this.
on that part, as long as you start that conversation in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
it is okay to walk away and say, "Hey, we can reconvene this tomorrow." But you started it in the moment to address that. Hey, I saw, I heard,
Mm-hmm.
we have to talk about this,
Correct.
but it's okay that you need to cool down. We can finish this tomorrow.
As
But
long as you
that initial
communicate
address,
that.
that initial addressing it is what's going to drive that conversation because you're doing it
Exactly.
in real time.
As long as you communicate that.
Okay.
You let them know. In other words, so if I'm the one that's speaking out, it's going to make me feel pretty good that I was able to just tell you everything that I'm going through, all of my feelings and all of this stuff, and you did listen. And now you're giving me an opportunity to listen to you when I'm ready. And that's okay. And that really is okay. And I think when the person is ready, then they'll come back in the office and you'll have that conversation. Now, on a different note, all right, here's a story, right?
Okay.
I'm in the office with my administrator, you know. We're having this great conversation. We meet once a week, we're having conversation, always interruption. The interruptions always were not even a knock on the door. A doctor will open the door and he will storm into our meeting. And in her facial expression was like if she could only say the things that were running through her head, but she
Right.
wouldn't, right?
Right.
But it got to a point that she was fed up, right? And we were sitting there and we were having a conversation. We actually, she was my mentor. I am where I am today because of her,
Okay.
because she saw in me, the ability to speak. And she goes, "You got to get on LinkedIn. You got to get business cards. You got to do this." And she's pouring into me. And the door opens and is this doctor complaining about something. And this is where some of the audience may not agree with how this crucial conversation led, or how she addressed this. But this is what she did. She got up and she told me, "Nestor, I'm sorry, but this meeting is over." and she walked out of the office. And she left me in the office with the doctor. And then he looks at me and he goes, "Is she coming back?" And I go, "I don't think she's coming back." And then he goes, "That's kind of weird." But it stopped that behavior.
Right.
Was it rude? Yeah, it was kind of rude. It was unprofessional. Yeah, it was kind of unprofessional, but it stopped the behavior. So sometimes we have to address the behavior by not giving power to the negative. You
Nice.
follow what
Nice.
I'm saying?
Yes.
Not
Yes. Yes.
giving power to the negative. So, a great mentor, I call him Pops. You know, he's in his late 70s, and this guy is he's like a father to me. You know,
Yes.
and I was going through some things in my life. You know, I was going through a really bad divorce, and I'm being an open book right now, right? Because this is what these talks are all about. Because I'm
Oh, yes.
sure there's listeners out there that are probably can relate to some of these things. And I was contemplating suicide. I really was.
Mm.
And I met this gentleman, and it wasn't by mistake. You know, I was walking by this street in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I was listening to music, and when I heard the music called my attention because I'm a musician. You know, I play drums and all that, and it captured my attention. I walked in. Make a long story short, you know, I met this gentleman. He saw that I was going through something, and he had a beautiful garden in the back of his store, and he goes, "Can we have a conversation?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I sat back there, and his conversation was so powerful and so deep that I opened up and I told him what I was about to do, that I was going to go home and I was going to commit suicide. And this is what he told me. He goes, "Can you give me 24 hours? Come back tomorrow." Talk about talk about a conversation that captured my attention
Yes.
in the midst of what I was going through. He goes, "Give me 24 hours and come with me and come see me tomorrow." So, okay, I went home. I had all the pills ready, you know, and I'm not ashamed to saying this. I'm a survivor, man. You know, I made it because someone wanted to have a conversation with me. Because someone, a total stranger, opened up and said, "Sit right here. Let's have a conversation." Was that a crucial conversation? That was a crucial conversation for
I
me
was gonna say that's a crucial
because
conversation.
it can't get any more crucial than that. You know, sometimes we think the crucial conversation is because people are yelling at each other. You know, that for me, that was an important conversation. I came back the next day. He goes, "Let's go for a walk." Two things happened. We went for a walk, and he stood, and we were both standing on the edge of a sidewalk, the street, and across the street there was another sidewalk, people walking by. He goes, "You see all of those people over there across the street?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "They all have something to say about you. Look at that lady over there, she's staring at you. I wonder what she's thinking about you. Look at those two having conversations, talking about you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You have two options." I go, "I'm going to cross the street and I'm going to go over there and I'm going to have a crucial conversation. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind." And he goes, "Okay, that's one thing. What's another thing you could do?" And I go, "I don't want to do anything else but crossing the street and going over there and having a serious conversation with them." He goes, "See, you just empowered the negative. But if you stay here and you don't give power to what they're saying, and you don't entertain that conversation, and you just smile in spite of how you feel inside and walk away from it, you have won that conversation." Wow, are you
Wow.
serious? The next step was he took me to a cemetery. And we're going through a cemetery, and I'm like, "Wow, this guy's gonna what? Why? A total stranger. I just met this guy yesterday, and he's taking me to a cemetery. I'm done. Maybe he's gonna help me do the job." And he took me to a cemetery, and we stood there in the silence of this cemetery. And he goes, "What conversations can you hear?" He goes, close your eyes. I close my eyes. This cemetery is a beautiful cemetery. People that are buried in there, people buried from the 1800s, you know. And I'm almost done. I know we got to go. I'm almost done. We're going to a commercial soon.
I was gonna let you get there, but yeah, I don't want people to miss out on this. So
Yes, yes. Go
we're
ahead.
gonna go to commercial, and when I come back, we could get right back in it.
We'll be back in the
Very
cemetery.
powerful stuff. So right after this commercial.
All right.
Scruball is all about celebrating healthcare. If you're in the healthcare field, no matter where you work, we celebrate you.
I mentioned RST. Y'all saw the commercial. Definitely reach out for them. And Scrub Balls. Scrub Balls right around the corner. It's still time to get tickets. It's still time for you to be in the room. Y'all heard me before. Time to talk. We'll be at Scrub Ball. We will be live and in the building. Let's go. Meet me there. Beat me there. I just want to see y'all there. Again, we're celebrating anybody that wears scrubs, healthcare heroes. Definitely make sure you reach out, get your ticket, and take part of this beautiful event. Right before the commercial, Nestor was in the middle of a powerful story. I didn't mean to interrupt him, but I had to at that second. You know, we got to do what we got to do around here. It's time to talk about things.
That's
But
right.
we were in the midst of step one. You went, he said, hey, these people are talking about you. Hey, Arlene, um, these people are talking about you. You wanted to run over and say, hey, give them a piece of your mind. He said, but that would be feeding the negativity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Second part of this, he took you to a cemetery, and that one question he asked right before we went away was, what critical conversations are you hearing now?
Mm-hmm. So there I was, and he told me, close your eyes. So I closed my eyes. I'm trusting this guy. He said, close your eyes. I closed my eyes. He goes, what conversations are you hearing here?
Wow.
And I didn't know what to say. Didn't know what to say. You know, I'm in a cemetery. What do you mean? What conversations am I having here? And he goes, the only one here right now that has the power to change any future conversation is you, because you're the only one that's standing here alive. So what are you going to do about this? You're going to join them? Because remember, we talked about, you know, I was suicidal, you know. And he goes, are you going to join them, or are you going to do something about, where you're heading? Man, you talk about
Yeah.
empowering someone, So going back to some of the things, backtracking and what is the right conversation, right? So the instructions that we talked about was, address the issue with the staff member when it happens, right? The real time. State the issue, right? This is the issue. Give the results and allow time to discuss, but remain calm. Don't let your voice escalate.
Right, right.
Don't let your voice escalate. And sometimes you have to step back and rethink, right? The conversation, what you said, how you said it.
Because it's all about perception, right? You
So
may
about
think
perception.
you think you're coming across one way, and it could be totally received a totally different way. And I want to just say this to the family, based off of what he just said in that story of his, it's not always the person that you feel like needs that critical conversation. There are other people in your departments, there are other people in your surroundings that are warranting that conversation as well, because they may be have something totally different going on in their
Hmm.
life that we don't even know about. And that's, as what Nestor said, it had nothing to do with work. It was his personal life. He was, and I said this lightly with love, but he was
Hmm.
spiraling, had those thoughts, was willing to execute it, and it took a total stranger to have a conversation that he wouldn't get in somewhere else. This
Hmm.
was a stranger, as y'all listen to the story. This was a stranger. So to most of the people that work
Mm.
for us, we're learning them. We're understanding their stories. They bring their life to work, and you can kind of notice signs and things that are happening. So we're
Are
not
we
just
paying attention? That's the
right.
question.
We're not,
Are we paying attention?
and that's it. We have to be the leader, the counselor, all of these
The
things, and
firefighter, the
and,
big
and
brother, yeah.
right, and these are the conversations that we're talking about. Um, so segueing off of what Nestor said, I looked up something and I want to run this by you and I want you to give me your take on it.
Hmm.
Uh, they say that there's three parts to every critical conversation. The first part is you have to set the stage, establish a safe and respectful environment for the conversation to take place. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with you. You have to set the stage.
So when we're getting ready for these conversations, we have
Hmm.
to make that environment.
Hmm.
We don't want to meet them at that level where we're escalating what's happening. You want to pull
Hmm.
away. Hey, this is a calm space. I think you mentioned this as well. Like you want to make sure that the environment is conducive to the conversation that you're about to have.
Hmm. And
You want to
sometimes
make
going to the cafeteria or going to a public area and not just your office creates that safe space. One of the things that I've learned, um, like in your office, I always love to have um, like my desk. I never like to have like a rectangular desk. I always liked, and if I did, to the side, I had a round table,
right,
right? And when you sit at the round table, it kind of brings everybody together. When you're sitting at your regular table and they're sitting right across from you, the message that you're delivering is authority. So right,
right,
I'm the authority, right? So we're not setting that stage or setting the ambience, right? So that they
right.
could accept the message. So sometimes it's better to just say, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee. I'm gonna buy you breakfast today. Let's go to the cafeteria and let's have a conversation.
And that's important for leaders. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the office. I think that's a thing because when people, it's like when you were in school, hey, you go to the principal's office, you
Hmm.
knew what that was.
Exactly.
You know
Hmm.
what that was. Or
Hmm.
when people say go to HR, it's always a negative connotation with those type places. And we're trying to change that perception. Going to the office isn't always a negative thing, and you don't have to have these conversations necessarily in the office if
Hmm.
you're trying to, make sure that the conversation can be with a positive outcome.
Correct.
So the second part of this, it says sharing your perspective, expressing your thoughts, feelings, and in a constructive manner.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is you giving your side, as you say. What did they hear? What
Hmm.
is that? What is the message that you're portraying? Can you give your feelings and thoughts in a constructive manner that reaches your goal?
Hmm. Hmm. I believe that some of the things that I've used is, and that demonstrate that you are a good listener, right? So now when it's time for me to communicate back to the employee, I will start with, to my understanding, based on what I heard you say, and then I repeat what they said, and then I bring my opinion, right?
Right.
And how to resolve it, right? But I always want to start, I always try, not always, but try to start by, again, listening first, right?
Okay.
Not just listening with your ears, but also with your eyes, with your expressions, right? And then repeating back what they said. It's like an email, when you're going to send an email to someone, you're going to say, based on the conversation that we had yesterday, blah,
Right.
blah, 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 because it's their words that I am using. And if I said something incorrectly, type something incorrectly, it gives them the opportunity to say, that's not exactly what I wanted to say.
Right.
What I,
Right.
but that's what I understood. And sometimes that's how emotions kick in, right? So one of the things that I wrote was, um, so how committed are we, right? The commitment that we have to put into these conversation and assignments that I'm going to give everyone is to watch. Okay. When stakes increase and emotions kick in and opinions vary, observe the process. See, now you're
Yes.
listening.
Yes.
Observe the process. Watch to see if you can spot others, right? Kind of fading away from the good communication, right? By their facial expression, or they're not paying attention, or their voices are rising and they're slipping into either what I call silence, because I ain't saying anything, but your face says it all,
Right.
or violence,
Nice.
right? And
I like
how
the
they're
silence and violence. I like that
exactly.
silence versus
Mhm.
violence. I like that.
So the question is, how about you? How about me? How about us? We got to come prepared to discuss what you observe at home, at work, and at play. And the do's, what we need to do is practice identifying when crucial conversation are keeping people stuck. Practice. Identify the two situations where people didn't, again, hold a crucial conversation or did poor job on holding the conversation. What went wrong? You know, what were the consequences? Right? People got upset, people walked away, people quit, right? Determine whether there is a crucial conversation you want to have before the next session that you already have the skills to hold. Who is it with? It's with so and so. I
Right.
can't address this person the way I address this other person,
And
right?
that's the leadership 101, right?
And
No two
that's
people are gonna be you're not
exactly,
gonna counsel people the same.
exactly.
Everybody, you have to approach that differently, or you
Mhm,
run the risk
right.
of that not being received, the message
Just
not
right,
being there. Yeah,
right. Just because we expect them all to give out the same productivity,
right.
follow those standards. When it comes to a conversation, it's totally different, man. They all perceive it different. They all communicate different. Identify what the issue is. And when will I have this conversation with this individual? When will I have it? Right?
I think you answered the third one because the third one said you have to explore the other person's side,
Mm-hmm.
listen actively and
Mm-hmm.
empathetically to their point of view to find a common ground and always try to work toward a resolution.
Correct.
So all of the things you said go into there. So what I
Mm-hmm.
want to do now is like we've identified the steps. We've identified what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the stuff you were talking about, I want to go back and address just to say these are some actions that people can take. One of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I wrote here, and again, I promise y'all we didn't talk about this in advance, so these notes and stuff are just like the perfect alignment of what we were talking about. Uh, what role does emotional intelligence play in handling critical conversations?
A
I'm trying to
very,
throw you for a loop now. I'm trying to throw you for a loop now.
a very important role. So what role does emotions and what else?
Emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence. So
You
me
you
as
and I
Mhm.
bring that up because you said we have to pay attention to what we're seeing, what we're listening to, and body language, everything. You said all of it plays a part. So how important is it for that emotional intelligence to kick in to say, okay, this conversation can go one or two ways
Hmm.
very quickly. How important is that?
It's very, very important. I think that should be like in the front line of every conversation. You must be you must be willing and able to identify that from the get-go, right? And if you as a leader don't have the tools for crucial conversation, then you need to take the course of crucial conversation, right? And you
Right.
need to prepare yourself, right? Because you as a leader must be prepared at all levels. We spoke before, we are firefighters, we're big brothers, we are educators, managers, we are counselors, we are all of those roles that we portray, that we do very, very well at what we do, you know. But I gotta backtrack this a little bit, right? What about you as an individual, right? What about us as individual? You know, we are so amazing as motivating people, right? As delivering the messages, right? But the question is, what about you? Are you, that type of leader? Are you educating yourself enough to be able to identify those things that need to be identified? Right? What are you doing so that do you have a mentor? Do you have someone? Do you have a Kenneth Campbell that you can go to, time to talk, someone that you can connect with and say, I'm going through like that total stranger. Think about it, like that total stranger. So when I take the story of that total stranger and how he changed my life, those people that report to you, though you guys work with each other 8 hours, 9, 10 hours a day, they're total strangers. They're going through stuff. They're going through situation. But you, as a leader, are you qualified or prepared enough, strong enough in all of those aspects to have those crucial conversations with them?
And family, I think what he's saying is very, very important. I think that at the root of it all, leader, not leader, we're still humans that
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to ask somebody, are they okay?
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to look past the productivity to see the person. Notice that there's a change in behavior. Know that
Mm-hmm.
there's a change in, yes, productivity. You see these things, you see the behavior changing, you see the emotional changes. And are you strong enough to have that conversation?
Right. Mm-hmm.
That may be why you're at the critical point. Did we not recognize that somebody was going through something? And these are your
Mm-hmm.
staff members. But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, they're still people. And I know that we talk about it on this show. We ask people to leave, home at home, leave the problems at the door. But that's not
You
everybody can do
you
that.
you
Not
can't
everybody
do
can do
that.
that. Yeah, that wasn't not
I'm not a
every.
strong believer in that. I'm not. I'm not. When
I like
people
it.
say, well, welcome to this facility, leave your problems at home. I'm not a strong believer. How do you do that? How do you leave your problems at home and come to work? I had an employee that was so talking about paying attention, to your surroundings, and this employee was a go-getter was, man, there were times I had to tell him, you need to concentrate on your work, but then a moment when he was going through a process where he was silenced,
Right.
wasn't talking. So that for me was a red flag, you know. So I remember I, stopped by his workstation and I say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about something. Can we go grab some coffee?" We went to grab some coffee. We sat there, and I just straight out asked him, "Are you okay? What's going on?" Man, he opened up and he's like, "Oh, this one friend is going through this one friend is going through that." And he just poured out. He goes, "I don't even know that I want to live anymore." Red flag, right? Had I not asked that question,
Who
who would
knows?
have known what was
Who
the
knows what would
end
happen? Right.
result? Today, he is a supervisor in a hospital up north, But why? Because of that conversation. And I kind of gave him information through the hospital. They call them different. We call them EPA. Everybody got a different name to it. And he went and he got some help. And today he's better. And then we stay in contact. We talked, and he's grateful that we had that conversation. So, leaders, we have to pay attention. We got to get out of the office. Get out of the office.
I think that's the important part. You were able to recognize something. And as you said, in real time, you pulled that person to the side and saw that there was a need for a conversation. And it had nothing to do at work. You just saw the emotion change. You saw the person change, and you were able to identify that, hey, this is somebody I need to talk to. And that was what made the difference in that. Another form of that could be the total opposite. So do you have any suggestions or techniques for somebody who has to de-escalate the tension during a crucial conversation? When, again, you say we're addressing these in the moment, right? So what if that level of tension is so high that you need to get it to come down so that we are listening to each other instead of trying to talk over each other? Do you have any de-escalation techniques?
People are gonna laugh when they hear this one. So I had a director that I reported to. I'm just gonna put it out there, right? That I was working under, and this person just had a foul mouth. Every time a problem happened in the OR, would come to my office yelling and screaming at me and utilizing language that you shouldn't be using in the workplace. But because she was my boss, I guess it was acceptable, And but I was fed up. I got fed up with it one day. And one day, going back to what my director did when she walked out, I called her to my office. And the ambience. So I set the ambience, I had
that stage. Who set that
the stage? I turned the regular light on. I put the lamp on. I even had some room scent, plugins, and she walked in. And I'm standing, and I go, please sit down. And she sat down, and I was standing. She goes, are you going to sit? And I go, no, what I have to say, and I have to watch my tone because our conversations were always like that. I could never put a word in because she was always, wow, 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 wow. So I said, what I have to say is very, very short and to the point. I don't know who I remind you of when you speak to me. Maybe I remind you of your ex-husband, is what I said. I'm not your ex-husband. And if you speak like this to your children and you speak like this, I remember that. I thought I was going to get fired. And you speak like this, to your loved ones here in the workplace, we don't talk this way. And I shouldn't be the one telling you this because I report to you. So moving forward, I would appreciate that you treat me like a human and you don't speak to me in that tone of voice. Thank you very much. And I walked away. I did the same thing that my administrator did. That was years later. I learned that. And I said, I'm going to put this to the work. Maybe it'll work and maybe I'll get fired. And around 6 months later, she put her resignation in, and she was going through some health issues. And I remember that I went to her office just to tell her, thank you, and to pray with her. I said, may I pray with you? And that was so powerful, so you have to take control of that situation. And that's how I control the situation. It will get escalated because people will come in and just hear them out, hear what they have to say, and then you have the power, right, to unstuck them from wherever they're stuck. You have the power to change, right, the result by being a listener, right? Because maybe that's
I like
all
the way
they want.
you turned the table on that. You turned the table on that. There were some very good comments. I don't want to lose them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this one was you were for him, the gentleman that you walked up to his desk and just asked him to speak.
Uh-huh.
They say you were for him what the stranger was for you.
Yes,
I
exactly.
like that comment
Exactly.
because it
Yeah.
puts it in that same connotation. Like
Right.
we
Mm-hmm.
don't know what he was going through. The stranger didn't know what you were going through.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all had those conversations and it changed the trajectory of somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
I
Do
like
you
that.
do you know that I still speak with Pops? He just turned 77 years old, and I call him. He lives up north, and I call him all the time. And he always wants to know, what's going on with my life. And when I share with him, he goes back to all of those
That moment,
conversations
yes.
that we had. Yeah, and again, we have people in our department that are those strangers.
Right,
Be that person, be that person to listen, be that person to just step back, right? And look at the whole picture. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's how I'm delivering the message. Maybe I need to change how I deliver. Maybe I need to change my approach.
right,
Maybe I need to be a better listener. Maybe I need to identify what I need to do, what I'm doing wrong. We got to own it. Once in a while, we just got to put ourselves on timeout
right.
and we got to own it, you know?
I saw Star walk in, so she was saying, "Hey, I saw Star come in, so I want to make sure we acknowledge her." And Lamont had two good comments as well. He said that, like you may be only one person in this world, but for someone, you could be
Yes.
the world.
I
So
love
that was
that.
powerful within itself. And then he
Oh,
said,
yeah.
emotional intelligence is you being in control of yourself at all
At
times.
all times. That's right.
So you can't, yeah, you're not going to go to the level they're at just because they're upset. And I
Exactly.
think that everything you said was very powerful in the aspect of it's the listen.
Mm-hmm.
It's that leader saying, you know what? Maybe it is me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I am the issue of how I'm trying to communicate, or maybe the message isn't the correct message.
Mm-hmm.
And knowledge of nonsense, and she knows I love this book, but hold your form.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be, as you said, you have to be everybody for everybody,
Right.
but know your audience, know what's happening around you, and
Mm-hmm.
hold your form.
And the only way you're going to know your audience is by stepping out of the office
And that's an important one because I've heard people come on here and say they have bosses that be in the office all the time.
all the
And you have to
time.
look at yourself and say, are you that person?
Exactly. I had a boss that his desk was facing the wall and the door was to his back. The door was always open, but you still had a knock.
Right.
You still had a knock. And he would not turn around to acknowledge you. He would just say, "Not right now. Not right now." And then I will walk away. And I always told myself, if I ever and when I become him, I am not going to be him. I'm
Right.
going to learn. So that's all on observation. I am going to learn from, their mistakes, because for me that was just not right. Hmm.
One of the things I say in my book is that I had good leaders, I had bad leaders, but I took something from all of them.
Hmm.
It may be from the bad, what not to do,
Hmm.
and from the good, hey, things I want to improve on. And that
Hmm.
was what made me, much like you, my mentor, you know, it took her just showing an interest in me at an early age of my career.
Hmm.
And it changed where I wanted to go, what I wanted
Hmm.
to do. But it started with a simple conversation that from a CEO of a company at the time, you're like, oh, wow, they came to talk to me. And
Hmm.
it was that conversation that changed what I wanted to do, where I wanted to see myself. And then I went through a program called Reset. Shout out to, my people, they know who they are. UCDI. I went through the Reset program and it made you do exactly what you said. Look
Hmm.
at yourself and see what it is about you that you either want to change or
Hmm.
things that you didn't identify readily at beginning, but it makes you think about you. And
Hmm.
then again, back to that part of, are you the problem?
Right. Right.
And then, um, again, family, Nestor came through today and drop some really, 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 really important gems on you, just to say, take a step back, look at the whole entire picture, look at what transpired, but do we know why it transpired?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know why we're in the midst of that conversation? Are you listening? He brought up that a lot. I know y'all caught on to that whole, are you listening? What was the body language?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know them past the productivity?
Mm-hmm.
Can you notice when somebody is going through something? Are you prepared to have those type of conversations? He's mentioned there's classes out there for people who, want to know how. There's mentors out there. Do you have a mentor? Even things like that to
Mm-hmm.
say, is it me? That's what we charge you with today. Step back and look for yourself at you before it's too late and you've already got into these conversations and you realize, wait, I'm not prepared for this. Somebody threw a question there at the end, so I'm gonna give it to you and give you a few moments to say it. It says, what is your next step when the crucial conversation does not cause change? Well, that's a good
Fire
one.
them. Fire them.
Family, I wasn't prepared for that one. I didn't know he was gonna say that, but I mean,
I'm sure there's a
in,
lot of people laughing now too.
in a roundabout way, I mean, if the conversations are not invoking change,
Mm-hmm.
then you do have to go to those next steps. And normally those
Exactly.
next steps involve progressive discipline and the other
Exactly.
parts where you manage up or you manage out. And
Action plan.
that
An
is a
action plan.
true, I mean, he said it in a joking manner, but that is definitely where you have
Mm-hmm.
to start looking at, is this the position for you? Is
Right.
this where you want to be? Because if
Exactly.
you've given them all of the steps and it's not helping the situation, then yes, now you have to actually
Right.
manage up or manage out.
Right. If
And
all of your
unfortunately,
boxes, if you were able
right.
to check all of your boxes, yes, I did this. Oh my God, I didn't address this. Let's try that. But if you know, because again, we say it starts with you. If you know that you've done everything in your power to have that conversation and you're not getting anywhere, then it's time for you. If you address the issue with the staff, if you state what the issue is, if you step back and you rethink and you approach it again and it's just not getting anywhere, then it's time for you to do some action plans
And then
and
on that,
speak.
you
Hmm.
don't want to let that person or that situation start leaking over into your other employees,
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
then that changes your culture and that changes the trajectory of your department. And then that's what
Hmm.
you don't want. You don't want that one person to start causing everybody else to feel a
Right.
certain type of way.
Document all of your conversation. Very important. Document all of your conversations.
Nestor, my friend, I appreciate you. We finally made it happen. You came through, you
Thank
dropped
you.
knowledge. Parting, I always ask, and I know I'm here at that time, but what advice do you give to that leader who is saying, I don't know if I could do this? Where do I go from here?
Very simple. Go to your nearest cemetery and stand there and close your eyes. And what you're going to see or hear is that you're the only one that's breathing. You're the only one that is alive. And as long as there is breath, there is hope.
Hmm.
And I'll finish with this. There is a biblical passage, if I may go there, where there's a tree in the book of Job, chapter 14, and this tree, from a distance, the tree looked like it's dead. The branches, there's no leaves, it's dry, the root is dry. And the question is, can the tree live again? Job is asking. And the answer was, as long as one drop of water hits that root, there is hope. So I tell you, leader who's out there questioning, do I have what it takes? Man, you made it this far. You got this. You have Kenneth Campbell, you have me on the other side, you have all of these individuals, all of these mentors. As long as there is breath, there is hope. Just keep striving, work on yourself. Maybe you need to take some time out for yourself, right? To refresh, to rethink, right? Step back. That's why one of the instructions to the assignment is, the last one is, step back and rethink. What do I have to do? So I believe that you can. I didn't think that I was going to be this far into this industry. And here I am 44 years later, because someone paid attention and told me, yes, you can. So today, Time to Talk is telling you, yes, you can.
Okay. Family, you heard it here today. Very powerful stuff. I think, as he said, take a look at yourself, self-evaluate, reset, reflect, all of those things. And in the back of your mind, if you hear Nestor's voice, you'd be like, will you be pops for somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Will you go forth and realize the potential that somebody else has and set them on a different path? That is the charge that we have for you, family. It's been Time to Talk. Y'all know how we do. Same place, same time next week. Nestor, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for the
appreciate you, family. As always, I'll talk to y'all again very soon. Have a good evening. Thank you so much.
Do you want greater success and satisfaction in your career? Do you have ideas that you desire to contribute? Then it's time to invest in you. Imagine you building and managing a high-performance team, managing conflict and difficult conversations, understanding financial management and budgeting, creating and implementing strategic plans, building and maintaining relationships with stakeholders. Our programs are designed and tailored for individuals seeking to grow and succeed in their leadership roles. UCDI's Change the Narrative Progressive Leadership is a mid-level leadership program designed specifically to develop the skills and knowledge necessary to take on greater leadership responsibilities in a sustainably scalable format. So, if you're tired of seeing ineffective processes, unhealthy work distribution, lack of follow-through and accountability, and you want to be an answer for yourself and for your team, then this is the program for you. Contact UCDI Leadership at info@ucdileadership.com or text LEADERSHIP to 214-717-5921. The future depends on many things, but mostly it depends on you.